Hi. I am Skylines, and this is the 26th episode of Norindus. I have been waiting for this episode the most, as public transportation is my favorite game feature. So in this episode, I will show you how I set up my mass transit system for a city of this size, and with this structure. Also, I try to stay somewhat realistic as to what you would actually see in real life in a city like this. Although, this game kind of leads you to make more extensive transit network, so I guess this would be more realistic to a city that is a few times bigger. To give a brief overview, I start with the train lines. Then I build supporting bus lines. Then I wait for a while, so that the buses would have time to deal with the initial accumulation of users. Next, I will go on with following loop, upgrade lines that are still too busy, by either changing the capacity of vehicles, adding more buses, or replacing it with tram. Thus I'm waiting to see if changes were enough, and then start the loop over. If tram line, after upgrading it, isn't enough, I build a metro line to ease off the tram line. Lastly, I check from the road usage info bar, if additional lines are needed. Let's start with the train lines. They are the backbone of the whole system. Rest of the lines are just collecting sims from the district to the train station and spreading them from train station to the district. Some rural bus lines are there to bring some coverage to places that don't really need the train station. I had built most of the existing train lines way before, but I added 3 stations and 2 lines this time. The idea behind the locations of train stations is to connect the high-density places to the main station, as well as bigger industrial and shopping districts. One line goes beside the intercity line up to north, and gives a stop to that one village, which wouldn't have its own station, if it wasn't going beside that intercity line. I considered bringing a line to the Fairview village, but I didn't find it realistic enough, as it still only has some 400 residents, and it is away from the intercity line. So this city has now 8 train stations, one of which is for only the ore industry, and one is for the northern village. For the rest of the stations I build those supporting bus lines. Each train station will have its own area, that needs to be covered. Some districts, that are in between 2 stations, might get bus line coverage for both stations. All the urban districts must get at least one line going to at least one station. I start drawing the lines from the district, clicking next stop to near the station, then next one to other district that is the other end, then back to station, and finally back to original starting point. Then I add the stops between. This way I can get the shortest route. Sometimes the shortest route will use a road that either can't have stops, or is just too busy to put buses there as well. Then I can simply make them go elsewhere by dragging the line to a more suitable road. When placing stops, I also want to keep in mind the local sightseeing and other leisure places. Rural bus lines are set up to simply bring the coverage to the rural area. In real life these lines would all end in the main station, but in this case I'm bringing them to the closest station. Right after completing the line, I adjust the amount of buses to a lot less, as these lines won't be used as much, but the game thinks that it is a long line, so it need a lot of buses. In the next phase I simply let the game run by itself to let the lines deal with the initial accumulation of sims. These sims accumulate heavily to the stops before the first bus comes in. Now I will check if the lines are doing okay. The basic rule is, that if the bus with most passengers is nearly full, and no stops have more passengers waiting than is the capacity of the used vehicle, it is a good line. If there are less passengers, I usually change the amount of buses. If there is over demand, I change the vehicle capacity. I don't really want to go over 100% amount of vehicles, to avoid creating traffic. With buses, I don't want to use too big ones, as they often block the road when standing in the stop. While checking the lines, I mark either the lines that are good, or the lines that need further checking, to know which lines should be checked next time. Then I let the game run. Now it seems like some lines needs to be changes to tram routes. I try to use the same roads as the bus line did, but I do avoid roundabouts. Also, I prefer using separate tram tracks, to keep them out of the traffic. Other than that, this really works like a bus line. Then I let the game run. It seems like that there is one tram line that can't clear up all the stops. I take a look where it goes, and start to plot metro stations. I connect them up, and make a line. This should take a lot of commuters away from the tram line, and make its life easier. Later on, there appears to be another tram line with one stop that has more than 1,000 people waiting. I give them an extra metro station, that only rides from there to main train station, cause it looked like that the tram line was largely used for that. I do the loop, until I think it's all good. Then I go to this info view, that tells me the most popular routes that private vehicles use. If there was some A to B route that I had not noticed, I could have added extra lines to this basic system. Luckily, it is all good now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe and stuff.